All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case as the rain gently begins to tumble out of the sky. We've got all sorts of stuff to talk about today. We've got to talk about another one of Hunter Biden's buddies. Turns out he made a few more visits to the White House under the Obama administration than previously known. It was already known that he had visited there, but it's more, and doesn't really surprise me. I have a feeling that those may have been business meetings, but they deny that anything untoward ever went on. China's economy is slumping right now. They're down 14% in exports, and I think a little bit more actually in imports right now. They're having some issues, and that's not necessarily the best news. Actually, some people would say, "Oh, China is suffering." Well, that's good because they're Chicoms. Yeah, but the problem is that your own government sold out to the Chicoms and made a massive arrangement of business deals and trade deals with the self-same country. And if they ain't buying and they ain't producing and then subsequently ain't exporting, that can be a little bit of a problem. Although part of it is the switch from some U.S. firms, from China to India, which is something that I foretold years and years ago. I said that India was the rising power there. It's coming true, actually quicker than I expected. And Desantis is hemorrhaging money right now after frittering away tens of millions of dollars because of an overstaffing problem. He's still having some issues because people simply aren't showing up to fundraisers, and I don't understand why. He's supposedly this great guy. He's so popular, but it hasn't actually worked out that way for him. By the way, Mike Pence has qualified for the first GOP debate. We'll mention this in brief right off the bat. It'll be funny because I have a feeling that Chris Christie is going to manhandle him. Since Trump won't be on the stage, the natural next solution is to manhandle Mike Pence and vampirize him of all of his energy. Chris Christie will probably emerge from the first GOP debate as the victor, actually. If there's one thing that we can't impeach him on, pun intended, it's his debating skills. You saw what he did to Marco Rubio the last time around. We got all sorts of stuff to talk about. I do see that we're live on Rumble. I no longer even need to wait and check because it automatically starts the second that the feed begins. So yeah, pour in, everyone. We got some clanking going on. 3 Degree Cut says clankety clank clanks. Marcus 1967. Good morning, sticks and all. Clank. Discoursey also says clank. And Mrs. Tag, beautiful day to have some clank. I agree. Every single day is a beautiful day for clanking. I don't have anything to clank right now. I was drinking, what the fuck was this? Yogurt, Bosfruchten, which I think is like those red berry things, I think. Banana and apple. It's a smoothie from the local Jumbo. I drink a fruit smoothie every single day, preferably the ones that have yogurt in them, because, it's good. Some protein, calcium, etc. Alex, please help Greece and Pixel Planet to invade Turkey. We're not doing Pixel Planet stuff right now, although if anyone wants to go over to pixelplanet.fun, I guess that you can help them. This is not an official order, however, from Styx Hexenhammer. Right now, the clankers have grifties to deal with. You can go to grifties.com. Please vote for me and for my cats for Grifty Awards, because it'd be fucking hilarious. I've thought it through, by the way, for next year for the Grifties. I have a devious plan in mind. It's going to be one for the ages, one for the record books. But yeah, people are, I see a lot of Greek people are there. Love your food. And we've sparred with the Turks before and overran their entire country in Pixel Planet. Right now, though, we're in a holding pattern. I do see that several people have decided to unlawfully invade areas of Africa that are held by Clankdom. That's going to hurt them in the long future. LS420 Stoner. How do you not get blackpilled when it's obvious nothing can defeat the deep state? Because it's not obvious to me. What have I missed? Not going to lie, feeling depressed and ready to just give up. Well, because I don't consider that to be obvious. The deep state is not acting as it is currently. Mass censorship, warmongering, legal lawfare and shit like that. It's not doing that out of strength. You think that they want to rock the boat and raise the eyebrows of the public? No. If you can do otherwise, then you keep things calm. You do a little bit here, a little bit there behind the scenes. You don't make it so obvious. They are afraid. Doomsday Machine. Clank morning, Sticks. Been a while since I've caught a live stream. How much you want to bet Vivek will manhandle everybody? I kind of want to see him call out Pence and DeSantis. Possible. I think that going into the first Republican debate, here's my prediction. Christie and Ramaswamy are the winners. Nikki Haley breaks even, DeSantis breaks even, and the also-rans they get beat up on. Mike Pence will be the big punching bag of the night, though, because he is effectively a stand-in for Donald Trump. And so Chris Christie is going to be gunning for him. You know that. He'll gun for him from the TDS angle. And meanwhile, Ramaswamy will gun for him from the non-TDS angle. They'll both be seeking to knock him out completely in order to solidify their admittedly mediocre polling, but still strong third place sort of competitors. And then Haley might come out in that same position. Basically, Donald Trump is the nominee. Ron DeSantis is waiting in the wings in case Trump gets, he dies, he gets killed, he gets prevented from being on the ballot. And then you've got a bunch of also-rans, but they want that third place spot because they want to say, hey, I was here, I got third, maybe even second place in one of the starting states. I had viability. Buy my book. That's basically what they want. By the way, to people asking, yes, I passed my Dutch driver's exam. Apparently, it is not common for a person to pass both the theory exam and the physical exam on the first try. So I'm rather proud of myself considering I'm not even Dutch. I'm not even from Europe. I don't have any familiarity with the road signs and road rules and shit in this country. And there are a lot of road signs and a lot of road rules. The Netherlands is jam-packed, apparently much more than most European nations. So, yes, I'll be getting a car soon. I'll have cars and gardens soon on 2 continents. We're probably going to be moving to a place that's a little more landly. So I want to have a garden. I want to have my own office because I've got a million ideas for videos that I want to make that I simply can't under the circumstances here. And so there are big things ahead. Yes, there will be MRE videos. I got some stacked back here. Look at this shit. Yeah, baby. Danish MRE. What the hell's in this? I can't remember exactly what's in this one. It's got some sort of fish in it. I can only read about half of it. Danish overlaps with the Dutch to some degree. I've got the French. Oh, yeah. The French ones are notorious for being delicious. This one is chili con carne, tuna and ginger salad, and duck pate, which I've never tried before. I can't wait. Soup, milky dessert, salted and sweet biscuits, coffee, tea, and chocolate muesli, isotonic powder drink, nougat and fruit jelly, energy bar, chocolate bar, jam, packet of tissues, reheating kit, and water purifying tablets. And then I got a British MRE down here. What the fuck was in that one? I think that one was it meatballs or something like that? This is their new redesign, by the way. The old ones came in a cardboard box like the Danish one. Pork sausages and beans, and then meatball and pasta, and pindi shana aloo, which is an Indian meal, which is literally the meal that I chose it for. I can't wait to dine on these. I'll be able to make 9 videos off those 3. I fucking love MREs. Ever since I watched Steve MRE Info eat that Civil War biscuit, I was hooked. So anyway, let's see. Doomsday Machine. Also, if the deep state was truly on top, their propaganda wouldn't be necessary. Absolutely. People have less trust in the political machine than ever before. Most people wouldn't even know this much was going on if not for Trump. Yeah, again, exposing the DC machine by forcing their hand is probably his biggest victory so far. Yeah, don't worry. I'll do Pixel Planet stuff sometime fairly soon. But right now, at some point, Jesus, we got to get to some news. I got distracted thinking about eating MREs in my new office at some point in the future, and no cats allowed, no hair, no poop, no pee. One of the MREs just almost landed on the cat. Well, I mean, you kind of deserve it. So, Drake, clanking from my dead. I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. That can't. Ong blood. Pence is a cuck. I definitely agree with Pence being a cuck. Yeah, there's a lot of Greek bots in here. I don't mind. I mean, we were allied with Greece. I do support them in their sovereignty on Pixel Planet, but right now is just not the time for it. I've got too much else going on. I've got to get a car. I've got to get my driver's license first, though. Got to move. It's going to take some fucking effort, Yeah, Chad is currently being botted, I believe. But I don't have any moderators, and I never ban anyone from chat unless they're saying something truly pernicious. So go ahead and bot it with the Pixel Planet references. I don't fucking give a shit. I believe in unfettered free speech. You're not defaming anyone. You're not claiming that other people should join you in some terroristic activity. That's okay. That's all right. Now, get to the news. Hunter Biden buddy Eric Schwerin made more trips to Obama White House and VP home than known, according to a report. First son, Hunter Biden's longtime business partner, who also managed his family's financial affairs. Those must have been some interesting fucking numbers. Can you imagine you're the accountant for the Biden family? You're sitting there probably, like literally you're sitting there by lamplight. You're sweating bullets and you're like, oh God, this is a mess. I got this 200-page document that I've got to go through, and I got to make the notes good. Otherwise, the big guy will dock me 10%. Eric Schwerin dropped in at the Executive Mansion and the Naval Observatory in Washington on at least 36 different occasions between 2006 and 2016, according to analysis published Monday by Fox News. The Post initially reported in April of 2022 that Schwerin visited the White House and Vice President's residence at least 19 times, while Joe Biden was Barack Obama's second in command. So, once again, more evidence of shady business practices. Joe Biden claimed for the better part of 2 years that he never met with anyone in relation to Hunter Biden's business doings. Now we're finding that yet another of his business partners, so this is, I think, the third one, actually. You've got Devin Archer. You've got what was the name of the other individual who worked with him, who was a whistleblower? I can't remember exactly. Claiming that indeed the meetings happened. There were calls as well made on speakerphone, and they're trying to cover for that, especially Devin Archer, which is that's sort of a false flag maneuver, saying no, he didn't do anything illegal or anything. They didn't discuss business. He just, he talked about the weather or golfing or something like that, which makes a whole lot of sense. It's so fucking believable. And that Hunter Biden basically was peddling the influence, but it was the illusion of influence. Hey, I can call up my daddy. He's vice president. You want to talk to him right now? Hey, by the way, it'd be a good idea to invest with our firm because we've got access to the vice president. And the idea is, according to Archer and Hunter, actually, at this point, no influence was peddled. The business arrangements were never meddled with in any manner. The calls were meant to effectively intimidate the other companies into investing with them or taking investment. It's possible, but yeah, maybe not. We'll give it a pass until we have more info. But now we know that another Hunter Biden ally took a significant number of visits both to the White House, which, I mean, there's no real reason for him to be there just because he's the son of the president's buddy and again, partner in financial ways, and to the vice presidential home at the time. Of course, Biden at the time was VP. Why do I feel like there must have been some mention of these business deals during the course of these conversations? Again, 36 different occasions in that time period. And of course, there were probably meetings before. There were probably meetings after. It would be odd if there weren't. Even when Biden was no longer VP, of course, he's still a power player. Former VP, immediate front runner for the 2020 election. He's still active in politics. You've talked to the Obamas too, so I would like to see if he visited them at their personal home in Martha's Vineyard that, by the way, should be underwater right now, but miraculously, it's managed to stay afloat. You can't, but again, when there's smoke, there's fire. You can't possibly look at this from a legal angle and say that there was no discussion of any business deals. It's not even possible. And no reasonable prosecutor would look at it and say, oh, I'm sure that nothing untoward happened here. No, the reason why Joe Biden and his posse are getting a pass is because he's the sitting president of the United States and for nothing more. By the way, when he's out of office and he's dead weight, which probably will happen in the next election, if I had to have my druthers, they'll throw him under the bus if he's still alive and kicking by then. Of course, he's, he'll be 83 years old or something like that at that point. So you never know. By the way, just as an aside, I just completed, more or less completed, a work called 2099. It's a dystopian grave humor sort of work that pokes fun at the modern political situation. It pokes fun at political parties. It pokes fun at the civilian population, and certainly at sociopolitics on an international level. So coming up, that will be available probably sometime this or next week. So I think that people will enjoy it. It's a short story / short novella on the topic. It is brutal and blistering levels of satire and sarcasm. So Just putting that out there. I mean, we're talking about the ridiculousness of politics. I might as well pitch my own book. Sebastian Monroe, Trump tries to watch Enemy at the Gates. Ron Perlman looks at the screen. Yo, little Donnie, I edited this movie so you can enjoy it. I poo-poo on orange Nazis. What do you think about that? You left out the last part. What do you think about that, big guy? How do you like them apples? David Green, did you pass the driving test? How hard was it? Yes, it was similar to the U.S. driving test. The difference, of course, is though I was raised in the United States, so I'm familiar with the signage that's around. I'm familiar with the basic premise of the rules of driving, and I took driver's ed, for a summer and passed the driver's exam immediately. Although it took me, it's funny, it took me 2 times to pass the theory exam from the U.S., from the Vermont DMV. It only took me the first try here in the Netherlands. I find that to be astonishing. You go on the motorway, you do a couple of the special maneuvers. I had to park backwards, which I did seamlessly, which was fortunate because depending on how you position the vehicle, you may or may not be able to get it in there. And then just a forward park. So I didn't have to do like a 3-point turn or anything like that, although I can do that. And really, just to be clear, when you're taking driver's ed in the US or in the Netherlands, you're not going to need to know most of that stuff. It's not really necessary. You just have to show that you are capable of doing so. You understand topically the vehicle you're working with. You understand speed limits are obviously of import. There was one part, actually, we were on the way to Hengelo, which is the next city over. And there's this one really wonky road that looks like it's a 30 zone. 30 zones are like the side roads in this country. But it's actually an autovag, so you can go 50. And I didn't know that because there's no signage showing you that you're on an autovag. It doesn't look like it. It's made of brick, and going at 50 kilometers per hour on brick is a little bit shaky. So I'm going 30, and then I was reminded, of course, hey, we're in an autovag still. I'm like, okay. So I sped up. It was a little bit dicey, though. I mean, actually keeping the car straight on a slanted brick road at that speed is a little bit more difficult. I think they should redesign their autovag there. Acolytes of Terra Feria. Hello, Tarl. We would be interested in your participation in the next conclave. Please bring unregistered firearms. Yeah. You glow in the dark. Let's see here. I know you're not really. I know that that's a troll post, but we got to point out Fed activity when we see it. The Ku Klux Conclave. Lots and lots of white people, I'm sure. Dreadnought Trucking LLC. Orange Man Bad reminds me of Scrody McBoogerballs from South Park. Keep it up. Thank you. There may be a 3rd edition of that. Orange Man Big, by the way. Volumes 1 and 2 now available on Amazon. You can check it out on my books blog. Tarl Warwick Books Blog. Blogspot and WordPress. Next news story. China's economy suffers new blow as exports drop 14% in July. China's exports suffered their biggest drop in more than 3 years in July as global demand slowed, adding further pressure to Beijing to find ways to reinvigorate the world's 2nd largest economy. Although India is probably going to supplant them in a few years, so stay tuned. The value of exports, measured in US dollars, fell 14.5% last month from a year ago, the biggest drop since February 2020, when the initial COVID outbreak battered trade and production, according to the Chinese customs statistics released on Tuesday. It also marks the 3rd straight month exports have declined. The problem is that when you are an exporting muscle and your exports drop by double digits month over month and year over year, that's pretty bad because you see that is literally your economy. China is not food self-sufficient. It's not self-sufficient in the sense of, I mean, if you're not exporting the goods, if you're not getting the money from that, then it becomes more expensive, more pricey, more difficult to import the materials that need to actually process things to do the exporting. China tends to be a nation driven by synthesizing things that they import with some domestic components and then re-exporting them at a profit. Electronics, certain consumer goods, cheap shit that you find in the dollar store. That's the Chinese economy. They have to import a lot of their food. Imports also fell, which shows that China's economy is teetering on the brink. I've warned of this for years and years and years, actually. And Randy Manson is fundamentally correct. China met with Ukraine because they, and your thing got blocked there. Because they need wheat. The flood destroyed farmland in China. Absolutely. China is currently having issues with food, with inundation. It has ruined a bunch of crops there. So, those are useless now. And if they're not exporting, then it makes it harder for them to import as well to balance the budget sheets. They can always fiddle with their currency. They do this all the time, but there's a limit to how much you can do that plausibly and not lose your reputation on a world stage. That is a precipitous drop, though. Supposedly, the Chinese economy, the thing that gave China its power is we're the world standard of growth. You can come in, you can exploit employees, exploit the environment. We don't care. Just make us money. We take our cut, and then you send cheap goods back to the Western world, and people pay less for those goods, and we're involved in that and making profit, and it's all fine. It's corporatism. It's a facade free market economy. It's all overseen by the Chinese government, but in the end, if you play nice, if you don't step out of line, Jack Ma learned that the hard way, you can make a lot of money in China. If we come to the point where it looks like people can no longer make a lot of money in China, and it looks better to maybe go to India, to Thailand, to the Philippines, or some other attendant nation, maybe to parts of Africa, Latin America, China will dry up and fucking die. The problem is that because they're so hooked into the world economy in general, that would cause catastrophe for a bunch of other nations and a worldwide depression. I've warned of this again for the better part of a decade. While I'm not a fan of China, and while I would like them to be phased out of the world stage, be forced to bow their heads solemnly, take a step back, and no longer be a leading power in the world because they're a malevolent one, a colonialist, expansionist, warmongering power. All the tankies out there can go ahead and deny it, but study the history of the 1970s, then get back to me. While I would like that, if it were to happen suddenly, and it were to involve Western investors fleeing China for other countries, it would cause catastrophe. We wouldn't be able to build the factories fast enough in a place like India, Thailand, the Philippines, etc., in order to compensate for the lack of exportable goods. It would stymie the economies of the developed economies of the world. It would stymie, because of Chinese investment into the third world, it would stymie the development of certain third world nations as well. And so it would be a big problem. And so while China collapsing would be best for the world, it should be a slow and managed withdrawal from China that accomplishes that. If it happens all at once, while it may be humorous at first, you probably end up with a Great Depression, in which case the American public, which I actually give a damn about, would suffer. The Dutch public would suffer too. A little bit less probably in Europe than in the United States. Move your factories, my dude. If I had a factory in China, I'd be closing it down and moving to India or Vietnam or something right now. Dreadna, I already did that. Aussie's Robots, regarding saying the quiet part out loud, if the U.S. system breaks down, globaloids win. How do you preserve the old, avoiding rampant corruption? Civic activism. Make yourself as immune to the necessities of government as possible. Learn skills, do it yourself. Don't engage in lawfare and frivolous lawsuits as much as possible. I know it's an old New England tradition, that's for sure. Do whatever you can to rid yourself of government intrusion. Dreadnought Trucking LLC. Sorry, small keyboard. I meant Orange Man Big. Not bad. They're interchangeable. Sometimes I actually mistitle my own work. RS3 to Cool Guy. Mega Million is 1.5 billion today. What 5 numbers between 1 and 70 come to mind? Oh, great meme wizard. It would probably be illegal for me to actually tell you. Because then I could be held liable, literally, legally. So no, I won't be giving you the Mega Million jackpot numbers. If you do win, though, remember, who your favorite creator is, Cha-ching. By the way, you have to pay taxes on that. It's over a 50% tax rate in most states, I think. And so at the end of the day, you go home with about 650 million. Just a pittance, of course. Make sure to build a big garden. Professor Enoch 095, will you be Trump's advisor given the chance? If I was given the chance to advise Trump, I would. Absolutely. Ashley, thinking of wearing a China's a-hole shirt in Japan. I think it'll be a hit with the residents. Probably would be. Other than the handful of commies that exist there. They might have a problem with it. Probably go over even better in Korea. Wasted Bonehead. Good morning from the grave. Hello, our resident zombie. And Jeffy1073, Sticks, starting an e-commerce business because of your statements about improving oneself. Could you shout out my commerce website, jeffscatdeals.com? Okay, you got a shout out, jeffscatdeals.com. I don't know what you're selling, but people can go and look and see if they like it for themselves. Uncle Gib, clank, clank, here's a couple bucks for the piggy bank. Thank you very much. I always appreciate it. Diapers are expensive. Also, Liz likes to drink tonic water with elderflower in it, spritzed with lime. That's kind of expensive too. I enjoy it. It's funny because at first I was the one drinking it. I'm like, hey, it's refreshing. It's an anti-scurvy drink because it's got lime in it. That was delicious. Then she tried it one time. She immediately hooked. Now she's the one that drinks like 3/4 of the tonic water. The Grizzly 617, if Trump is reelected and we don't have ourselves a full-blown Tim Pool scenario, do you think he restarts his trade war with China? How much commie simping would MSM do in their TDS-addled minds? I think at this point it's very possible he gets reelected. I think that he will restart the trade war with China, and that may tip them over the edge. In fact, that might not be a great thing. He could end up reigning over the creation of a mini depression if he does so. Sometimes in government, despite your best interest technically being fuck your enemy in the ass, you have to show pragmatism because for every fisting you do against their ass, you get at least fingered in yours, and you don't really want to have your ass fingered. So I would urge caution on the China situation for Donald Trump. Ozzy's Robots, how damaged is DeSantis politically in the future? Toast, actually. In fact, we'll start that story now. His 2024 campaign struggling, DeSantis faces donors holding back cash. Ron DeSantis under pressure to raise more money as his struggling presidential bid is facing donors who are growing reluctant to bankroll him further. Some donors who have supported the Florida Republicans' campaigns for governor and had planned to donate to his presidential run are holding off until they see his poll numbers and operation improve. Pro tip, they ain't going to improve. Others who had donated to DeSantis are regretful and aren't planning to contribute more to groups supporting him. And so Ron DeSantis, some of the people that have bankrolled him before aren't really opening the purse strings now. In some cases they are, but maybe not as much. The problem for DeSantis is he has a top-down campaign structure. It's Mike Pence's problem as well. Mike Pence, being a traditional standard politician, has a very top-heavy campaign. The idea is you get those investors, you bankroll things, you put out the ads, and then you hope that you get grassroots support. This is what DeSantis has done. I liked the Cope posting a couple of weeks ago. Well, most of Ron DeSantis' campaign income comes from small donations. But then you dig into the numbers and you find out that's not actually the case at all. The majority of the actual money came from a handful of big donors. Mike Pence also has this problem. Yeah, the average grassroots donor only donated, 42 or 47 bucks, but there were fewer of them. Most of the money came from big investors, multimillionaires. If you then have a top-heavy campaign and you don't get those donations and you can't self-fund because you're not, massively wealthy like Trump or Ramaswamy, by the way, you got a problem. How are you supposed to keep your staff? He already had to cut a bunch of them. He already had to shave down his staff, and then he started bragging about a leaner, meaner campaign. Shaking up your campaign is usually parlance unless you're the front runner for I admit that things are not going so well right now. I'm not sure that I can win, and I'm throwing a Hail Mary. I pointed this out at the time. Ron DeSantis, in my opinion, is done. Barring, again, Trump dies, Trump is legally prevented from office, in which case DeSantis probably is nominated and then subsequently gets crushed in the general election as a double-digit proportion of Trump fans refuse to vote for him. I would be one of them at this point, by the way, based on HB 269. I'm not going to settle for the lesser of two evils anymore. I'm too old for that shit. If the Republican Party offers me anything other than Donald Trump or a suitable replacement in the case of his death, and that would be Rand Paul, it wouldn't be Ron DeSantis, then I won't vote GOP. I may down ballot, I may vote for GOP members if I think that they're worth voting for. The same is true of Democrats. I'm perfectly willing to vote for a member of the Democratic Party if they make sense. It's just none of them make sense at the moment. Normally, though, I would just default. I'll just write in Mickey Mouse for one position, Mickey Mouse for representative, state senator, Joseph Goebbels. And then I think Joseph Stalin or Pol Pot, and I can't make up my mind. I'll flip a coin. They can be, the sheriff. For high bailiff, choose two of the following. Well, Mickey Mouse can serve as a bailiff while he's also a representative. That's fine. And then I'll vote for myself. That sounds good. Who's going to be the dog catcher? Well, I'll vote for Satan or something like that. That'll be my voting pattern if the GOP doesn't get its shit together. Circle wagons around Trump. He's being mistreated. He's being persecuted. And the fact that he is a wealthy former president doesn't make him invulnerable. You've got to pull weight as well. They reamed Trump for not opening up more money for candidates in the 2022 midterms while withholding hundreds of millions from their own candidates in turn. They reamed him for this. Well, now it's your turn. Now it's time to give back and support your guy, the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party, and not bother waiting because the writing is on the wall. There is, other than DeSantis, nobody else has ever hit double digits. DeSantis is declining towards single-digit status. Mike Pence is probably going to get ass blasted by Chris Christie at the debates and by Ramaswamy at the same time. They'll rise up, but they're not a suitable replacement even for second place. You're going to end up with a three-way for second place, probably. DeSantis will lose some support to Ramaswamy and Christie, and they'll all be battling it out. It's going to be a cage match. It's going to be a little bit like Elon versus Zuck. That's what's most likely to happen. That's the most likely scenario is chaos at the moment. Not a banned account. Should we accept American industry won't return? Well, it can. We just need Trumponomics instead of Bidenomics. And a follow-up. How many more counts will Trump be indicted for? That remains to be seen, but I suspect he will be indicted in Georgia. So that makes, 4 or 5 indictments, depending on if you count the overlapping charges. Opinionated junkie, Matthew McConaughey, pushing gun control bill. Interesting. Not a banned account. Chances that Trump doesn't Epstein to himself. I don't think it would be plausible in the mind of the public that he would kill himself. That being said, they may try to assassinate him. They might actually be that fucking crazy. And half the population would like it. They would cheer. That's how sick they've become as members of society. It's like with Biden. I don't want him to be assassinated, not just because Kamala happens to be waiting in the wings. I don't want anyone to die. Even evil scumbag politicians. Okay, give them their day in court. Go ahead and put them in prison if they deserve it, which Trump doesn't, and Biden does. And that's fine. Do what you need to do. But I don't support assassination. Not unless somebody is literally committing genocide or something like that. Right now, we don't quite have that. Close, no cigar. Lance the Lion. Big day for Ohio voters with issue 1. Any thoughts could provide on this issue? Vote against whatever the woke-toids are pushing. That would be my advice. Go knock on some doors and get a couple friends to go vote with you. Didn't know that was today. Or else I would have made a video on the topic. I thought it was tomorrow. Troublesome Boner. Who is more likely to get JFK, Trump or Biden? I think doing Biden would be a better strategy for the deep state, but with Trump, it's personal. I don't think they dislike Biden. They just want to keep him as a puppet. He's an empty suit. They're not going to do anything to him. They might try with Trump, though. Unfortunately for them, he has his own private security, probably more reliable than the Secret Service. Pax is a little reef, not the bend over and get the finger. Yeah, it's a cave explorer time for the American public, under the current leadership. Wasted bonehead. Sticks, I hope Kentucky makes turtle soup out of Bitch McConnell the next election cycle. He may or may not actually run. I mean, he's all fucked up, getting booed everywhere he goes. The Agal faces. Sticks, why I'm still waiting for your Fumo plush. You're going to be waiting until the day you die, my dude. The Grizzly 617. I think Razor was right. The Republicans do have their shit together. The Republican Party would rather lose every seat in Congress and the Senate than see populism have a single ounce of power. I agree. The uniparty Republicans do not. They would rather cede power entirely and go back and huddle with their donors and then return 2-4 years later than see populism return. Yeah, absolutely. Next news story. Oh, it's Barbie related. What is patriarchy? What does it mean? And why is everyone talking about it? Editor's note. This story is part of As Equals, CNN's ongoing series on gender inequality. Find out more about it here. Yeah, the Barbie movie has raised the ugly head of the misandrists out there who think that men are keeping them down even though there's no wage gap. I'm just going to opine briefly here. And I don't really care about I don't care about the Barbie movie. It's not targeted towards my demographic. It's targeted towards females. Go ahead and have your misandry fest. It would sort of be like, the average person watching Rambo, they're male. Not many women are interested in watching it. There are films out there that are basically for men, series out there too. And then there are some for women. The Barbie movie is one of them. And that's perfectly fine. I don't see the conservative freak out about the existence of the movie because clearly it's not targeted towards you. Rush Limbaugh is not part of their core demographic, I think, that they have in mind. You can go watch Oppenheimer, or you can go and rewatch Rambo. Probably be more fun than both combined. As far as misogyny goes, though, and patriarchy really doesn't exist for the most part. If anything, society has overmodulated, gone in the other direction, and now elected officials that are taxpayer funded spend a great deal of their time making lip service to female voters, including the conservative ones. Even Donald Trump does this. Well, and I had record unemployment or some other statistic for women and black people and Jews. It's like a ritualistic sort of thing. A bunch of groups that you're not even part of, you have to pay lip service to them to get votes. The GOP does this less. The Democrats do it far more, especially the far left ones, some of which are female themselves. As far as gender goes, though, that's what they do. And I would point out that those same individuals don't want some mother. They don't care. Once you have a kid, if you're not a single mother, they don't care about you. If you have a kid, they want your kid to be indoctrinated. And if you say no, they have a problem with that. Women should have more choices in life, unless the choice happens to be to carry around a Colt 45 in order to protect themselves from their crazy ex-boyfriend or something like that. You may choose an abortion. You may not choose to defend yourself. King of Biltong, good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. Welcome back, Clank Leader, and congrats passing your license. Free shipping for your Biltong using code STICKS on antonsusa.com and landofbiltong.com. Hashtag Clank Nation. For some reason, I hadn't read yours, I think. Or did I? And I just forgot. Maybe. I'm having a Biden moment. Oh, no. Awesome Diesel. I'm here. Clank, clank. Clank to you as well. King of Biltong. Did my rant show? Yes, I just read it out. My apologies. For some reason, my screen jumped down. Or the chat window jumped down. So I skipped past it there for a moment. Thank goodness I caught my mistake. Opinionated junkie. Imagine 3D printing gun ban being unconstitutional. Yeah, it is unconstitutional. You should be able to mill your own guns and do whatever else you want. Load your own ammo. Joe C. Being one of the least liked candidates, I don't know why Chris Christie has any support at all. Seriously, who supports or funds this guy? I think some of them do it because they think it'll be funny for him to be on the debate stage with the other candidates, in all honesty. And I don't disagree with them, by the way. Chris Christie is an attack dog when it comes to debating. His one skill is debating very well. He crippled Marco Rubio. His presidential ambitions ended when Chris Christie pointed out his pre-scripted line there in 2016. He's going to do the same, I believe, to Mike Pence. He might knock Asa Hutchinson out if he gets on the debate stage at all. Definitely not Stevie Nicks. What is NIMBYism and what are your thoughts on it? NIMBYism is not in my backyardism. It's the idea that you want a new solar cell project for the environment because you're taken in by the green energy grift, but you don't want it next door. You want windmills, but you don't want them in your neighborhood or on the hill line that overlooks your town. You want a new addiction treatment facility because you care about the poor addicts and the homeless, but you don't want it located on the street corner a block away. And my thoughts on it are that the NIMBYists are the scum of the earth. They are the worst people in this entire world. Next news story. Biden aims to diversify research ranks with cancer moonshot awards. You remember when Joe Biden was first running? And one of his claims was, we're going to cure cancer when I'm president. We're going to stop cancer from existing, which is bizarre to even claim complete bullshit. And he announced that there would be a bunch of funding for cancer research. Well, some of it is going towards ESG. They're diversifying the cancer research. We want to have more women and people, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color. We want more dwarves, more wheelchair-bound people, and so forth. More people that are considered slow, differently abled adults to be the ones that are curing cancer. Why do I have a feeling this is 5.4 million, so it's a drop in the bucket that he's announcing here. So I know it's a lot to you or me. Like if I had 5.4 million, yeah, the garden would definitely be pretty flush. They have some Art Nouveau sculptures in it at that point. But to the government, it's a penny. It's a drop in a bucket in a goddamn river that leads to a goddamn ocean. The government doesn't give a fuck about 5.4 million, but they're using it to diversify cancer research, to make sure that the people that are working to try to destroy one of the long-term health scourges of all of mankind and certain species of animals. Look up the Tasmanian devil if you don't believe me. Those poor fucking creatures, 40% of them die of facial cancer because of their infected bites. The important thing is, though, that as we go forward to not curing cancer, which the moonshot bullshit clearly is not going to help cure cancer, that it be woke. That there be by a bowl of Skittles sort of look to the scientists that are actually doing the research. A bunch of white dudes that are straight, no, that's boring. Pete Buttigieg needs to get in there and shake things up a little bit. That's what they've chosen to prioritize with the cancer moonshot. Diversity, not helping people live, not helping them live longer, not helping them live better, not helping preventative medicine. Diversity. And that's what it was always about to begin with. Look at the infrastructure deal. That's been diversified to hell as well. Christina, thank you to all the clankers for supporting Pumpkin Fire Crafts. Yes, there is a link in the description cross-platform and pinned at the top if you happen to be watching this stream on YouTube to an eBay page where you can get certain Styx, Hex, and Hammer official merch. There are keychains, belt chains, and there are bookmarks, with others possibly coming soon. Cindy Drellick, I miss the cats. Well, here's one. New Hampshire, number 10, most expensive state to live in. Does that mean you won't move here? Clanking on you and your family, you're still my favorite content creator. Well, it's less expensive than Vermont. So yeah, New Hampshire definitely, when I get back to the US, I do want to move out of Vermont. I've made that decision. Vermont is not the kind of place at this point that I would want to raise a child, especially going back and forth between two continents. It's not convenient. New Hampshire is near the top of the list, along with West Virginia, Texas, and a few others of states that I would consider moving to. Haven't made a decision because, of course, we haven't finalized anything yet. I mean, I still don't even have a car in this continent, so I've got some work to do. Things, take it slow. Opinionated junkie, Larry Fink is the real president. Apache, can't wait to see Biden try and say the N country in Africa that's having issues now. Yeah, can you imagine him weighing in on Niger and mispronouncing that? That could be difficult. YouTube won't let me type the country's name. Lol. Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine Joe Biden trying to weigh in on the coup in Niger? Nah. I think there's about a 10% chance he pronounces it properly. And the 90% chance he doesn't, there's a good 20-30% chance he pronounces it a very certain way that would not go over well. Although I would point out that the leftoids won't have a problem with that. Definitely not Stevie Nicks. Okay, so his Second Amendment, the alternative to NIMBYism. Now, the alternative to NIMBYism is if you think there's a climate crisis, you go plant trees. If you think that there's a housing crisis, there's a bunch of homeless people, then you try to provide aid for them. You do charitable works yourself. How do you pronounce Niger? It's pronounced Niger, I believe, in the Francophone sense, or Niger. I've heard a half a dozen different pronunciations, including one that if I said on YouTube would get me banned from. So, next news story. West Virginia AG cites O.J. Simpson as precedent for moving Trump trial to his state. Win-win. Yes, the Attorney General of West Virginia is pointing out one thing that's obvious. It is true, which is that Trump can't get a fair trial in D.C. It's impossible. The jury pool will be massively left-leaning because that's the population of D.C. There should be a change of venue, and we'll see if that happens, although I'm skeptical that it will. That being said, moving it to West Virginia, I mean, you could do worse, but you could also do better. Now, West Virginia is overwhelmingly white. In the subsequent trial, if Trump is found not guilty, it won't be accepted by half the population. What I want to see here is that Trump gets a fair trial, although there shouldn't be a trial at all. And that trial results in exoneration because clearly the charges are bullshit. But if you move it to such a friendly venue, and then you have a not guilty verdict on all of the charges, you run into a problem where half the population is massively socially alienated, believes that the likely incoming president, which is what he would be at that decision-making, is illegitimate once again, like they did with the Russia hoax in 2016, and then you rinse and repeat 4 years of bullshit. It would be better for it to be moved to a venue that was actually neutral. DC is not neutral, so the venue should be moved. West Virginia is not exactly neutral territory either. There are other places you could move it to. You'd be better off moving it to Amish country or something like that with people without TVs, a handful of which may not have heard about the indictment at all and have no preconceived notions. Maybe all major trials should just take place with an Amish jury because they're more likely to be fair in their delivery of the verdict. Let's see. Definitely has I already read that one. Ozzy's Robots, YouTube is censoring super chats about Trump. Yes, I'm sure that they are. And yes, Matthew Moore, I can speak some Dutch. Ein beetje Netherlands. I'm still learning. It's taking time. Yeah, Trial by Amish. That should be a metal song title, shouldn't it? Instead of Trial by Fire by Satan, you have Trial by Amish. Somebody get on that. Somebody who can lay down a nice riff. You should do a parody song. That one would be probably a hit. Let's see. Awesome Diesel. Full disclosure, as an Australian, I never appreciated the USA as the land of the free until the last few years. Many such cases. Australia has some issues. Oh, you're not in New Zealand, so you didn't have to worry about Arden there, or whatever the fuck her name was, so Ardern. You have it better off than them at this point. Wasted bonehead. Biden's campaign promises are now more dead than I am. By the way, please send no more super chats. I'll go offline shortly after this one last news story. A fantastical world of potential giant viruses lurks beneath the soil. I wanted to cover this for several reasons. Number one, it could be a problem as the permafrost does admittedly melt. Number two, there's a little bit of a lie by omission in this article. I love dwelling on linguistic propaganda. This is from Science News, journalism since 1921. Well, there's an element of journalism missing here. You see, the scientists that are observing these giant viruses can't even agree whether they're viruses or not because they may or may not be infectious of any living thing. So they may not actually fall under that header at all. They're organic, you know that, but they're not 100% sure what they actually are. And they have like weird appendages on them, like Lovecraft-esque noodly appendages, weird like little arms sticking out of them and shit like that. And the idea is that they're likely contagious, although maybe the species that they were capable of infecting doesn't even exist anymore. We're talking about tens of thousands of years ago. And I'll read a little bit verbatim. These viruses, which they later qualify as not necessarily viruses at all, are roughly 10 to 50 times the diameter of viruses that cause the common cold. The genetic data suggests that giant viruses are diverse, widespread, and abundant. But genetics can't tell us everything about a virus's biology, says Stephen Wilhelm, a microbiologist at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. We don't know what we're looking at, who it infects, or what it could possibly be doing. Well, maybe it's just sitting there. Maybe it's some sort of self-replicating chemotrophic viroid or something like that that doesn't actually infect a living host. By the way, you could end up with a situation where a quasi-life form like that exists. It's not quite a bacteria, it's more like a virus, but it's not infectious, and it replicates by absorbing ambient energy. You could probably design that in a lab if you used CRISPR enough. So yeah, it's an interesting story, but there's a lie by omission because, again, like happens commonly, the actual sum and substance that tells you a little bit more of the nitty-gritty is buried down the article. It's not referenced in the first paragraph or in the title. I see this literally all the time. I have a problem with it. You're supposedly a journalist. You're not even working for a site that does political coverage. Do it better. Cat cans. OMG, I fucking love Trump. Go, Trump, go. Bad Biden. Yeah, I don't love Trump. I like his leadership. He did a good job. He deserves to be reelected like he was in 2020, although he didn't take office. And yeah, that's what I would say. XD Garbanzo. Man created all diseases. Well, no, not really. They've been around for quite some time before humans did. People keep talking about my driving test. Hey, Sticks, what's for dinner to celebrate passing the driving test, says Lemon Curd Zero. I got sushi. We ordered out. Afterwards, I was tired, so I said, you know what, fuck it. I'm taking the rest of the day off. I'm going to go and play with baby toys over on the floor. And then I'm going to eat sushi. And I ate a lot of sushi. Fish eggs, eel, seaweed, the whole 9 yards. Germs actually exist. Yes, germ theory is proven. It's not really a theory at this point, although there are still 0.1% of people who are confused over this fact. How many people are watching live, by the way? There's about 4,000. Anyway, I'm going to go offline. I apologize for yesterday not having a live stream. I'll stream again tomorrow. I'll go through the news stories. Well, now, basically. I'm making pizza tonight. Oh, yeah, with artichoke and with fungi, mushrooms for the English-speaking world. It's funny because I do know just enough Dutch that I start thinking sometimes in Dutch, especially with regards to food terminology, because I'm the one that does the grocery shopping. So, yeah, it's going to be goddamn delicious. It's going to be great. And I make my own sauce. I don't use the shitty sauce or ragu or prego or something like that. Oversweetened or overly homogenized. No, thank you. I am going to go offline now, and I will be back with you all tomorrow. That's about all. Peace out.